Right, hello and welcome to this week's angling vlog. Today you join me on the banks of the river and we're in search of an opportunistic chub. I've got about 3 hours of a session to come out and I've decided to come through to the river to try and catch myself a chub. The words opportunistic sessions are probably what sums up this winter so far. It's been one of the wettest that I can remember. The rivers are rising and falling and then back out the banks again. The River Severn's been a mess, as has the River Dee, and it's put pay to most of the big river fishing that I do. What it means is you've got to make the most of little windows of opportunity. So when you're dealing with windows of opportunity on rivers, you've really got to have your finger on the pulse of the rivers that you fish. Time on the bank learning the limits of when you can fish a float, when you can get away with a feeder, and how the level will affect the clarity of the rivers that you fish. Today the river behind me is just coming back out of flood. It's been out of its bank since the last time we were on the river, when I'll put a link to the top of the screen now to that session where we had about 20 odd pound of chub. As I said, it's not going to be easy. It's got the extra pace in the river, but it's also got the clarity, which is never good. I'd always prefer it to be low and clear than high and clear. With high and clear it can be quite difficult. The water that's come in the river yesterday is cold, so I'm sure we've got an opportunity to try and get a bite. How long that will last for I don't know, because it has been raining upstream, but we can only do our best. Let's take a look at the setup that we're going to use today and the bait. So the rod that I'm going to go with today is my Korum Glide. It says on the bottom there it does 12 to 14 foot. I've got it set today at 12 foot. So I've got that middle section here missing, so it'll be interesting today if we do get some chub, the difference that makes to the performance of the rod. If it does well today at 12 foot, then it'll be made for this river behind me, because as you can see there's overhangs and all types of things. So that's the rod that I'm going to be using today. Reel wise, it's a Korum Axis 3000 reel with 4 pound 4 ounce float fish. So that's the terminal tackle that I'm going to use today. What I'm going to do now is we'll have a look at the bait and we'll have a quick look at the float choice that I've gone with today and the reasons why. So the red mix we're going to go with today is the Mark Pollard punch mix from Hinders. Now, in keeping with the rest of the Mark Pollard range, it seems it has got a lovely smell of aniseed, and it does say on the packet there that it contains aniseed. More aimed at the roach I think, but I think it'll do fantastic today for the chub. So when mixing crumb, just put some in the bowl. You don't need a lot. As you can see, I've only used half the packet there, so just put a little bit in the bowl. So when I'm mixing crumb, it's different than how I mix normal ground bait. Normal ground bait, you just pour it in, but the margins with crumb are very fine. You don't want slop, but you don't want rock hard balls of bread. You want that in between stage. So what I do is just use my finger to flick in some water and mix that together, and just do it gradually. As you can see there, it's just dampened it a bit more. Just do it a bit at a time, and already you can see that bread is just coming together, but it won't stick in a ball yet. But what we don't want, like I said, is slop. So a bit more and mix it together. And don't forget, the bread will absorb a lot of water, but you just do it gradually, and already I can just smell that aniseed coming up. I'll try it again. You can see there it's gone into a ball, but breaks up quite easily. I won't be putting this mix through the riddle today, because I do want them bigger pieces that are in the mix. I want it to go on the bottom, coat the bottom, but ultimately I want the chub picking up that big piece of flake that I'm trotting through. So when it comes to river fishing with the float, always have plenty of options with you. I always carry this case with me. Recently picked up this one. As you can see, there's a few more floats in there as well. but what it gives you is the option to pick the right float for the day. In there I've got bollos, stick floats, dome tops, vine tops, alloy stems, lithium stems, you know, a waggler. So you've got a good selection of different weight floats to cover any swim. With them floats in there, they can fish a tiny stream up to a big river like the Wye or the Severn. So I've gone with a 8 number 4 stick float. It's got a bit extra weight than the normal 4 or 6 number 4 I would use on here, but if you can see the profile of the float, it's got a bit of a thicker top end, so it's going to give me that stability to ride the extra water that's on the river today. And obviously a thick stem will also give me that stability. It's glass bottom because the river is quite clear today, so I'm hoping that's going to aid not spooking the fish. But that is the float that I'm going to go with today and the reasons why. And it's got a nice visible thick tip for supporting that bread. On the last session we were getting them here, so we know they kind of like this area. So I'm going to feed this bread upstream, let it come down and just coat the bottom. Bread's going to be rolling through the swim to help it along. Just a bit of the hemp in the tears. So I'm just going to start off with a big piece of flake, hiding that hook, but with the point showing through the bottom. Let's see if we can get one. So with the river carrying that extra pace, it's taken probably an hour to get a bite. Having that selection of floats has been majorly important today. I've had to go up to a 14 number 4 just to make sure that bread is getting down in the flow and down to where them chub are feeding. As you can see, there's a lot of pace on the river. I think they've had some rain upstream because it has increased in strength as I've started fishing. But being patient, just putting them little balls of bread that you can see on screen now in the swim and going down with that bread flake, we've managed to tempt one. And this winter has been about windows of opportunity, and any river angler watching the blog will know what I mean. The rivers are up and down, and you've just got to try and take advantage of those windows of opportunity. Today, with the freezing cold temperatures, using the bread with the hemp and the tears in it has managed to nick me this fish. Now where there's one chub, there's normally more, so fingers crossed that we can get another. But let's get this guy straight back. The way you can easily tell if the float's not strong enough for the river is the angle it's going down. That 8 number 4 was going down at that type of angle when I was holding back, meaning your bait's probably up in the upper layers of the water when you're holding back. When you want to hold back on that bread, you want it fluttering in them lower layers, so you want your float more of that type of angle in the water. Your float is pointing at where your bait is. If it's at that angle, it's going along the top. If it's that type of angle, then your bait is generally on the bottom. So I'm changing that float over to be in control of the river. At that angle, the float is in control of the river. At that angle, the river is controlling the float. So a quick change of swim and second trot down, the float is buried and you can see we're bent solid into a chub. A good test for it at 12 foot. You see it's got a lovely bend in it and it's just mullered that piece of bread. So hopefully we can edge this chub closer to the net and get it in. That other swim, the river just rolls that bit too much for the float. The second swim I'm in has just got a lovely back eddy at the back, and it's just got that bit extra a bit extra potential to hold the fish. Number 2, Coming about 4 more casts down the swim, put another ball of that bread in, and then down with the flake. And what a lovely chub that is. Lovely brassy flanks. And with the light dimming, we're into another one. And as always, there's never enough time, is there? Chub number 4, and we are against the clock here, so I'm going to waste no time in getting this fish blogged and back in the net. We've got probably 15 minutes of light left. With the light fading, I continue to trot the swim, but unfortunately, right on last knockings, I lost a chub at the back of the swim. As you can see from the final net in that swim, the change really paid off. 3 chub in probably what was the last hour of the session. Great fun. I hope you've enjoyed this week's blog. It'd be great if you can like and subscribe. Tight lines in your own fishing, and I'll catch you all next week. Tight lines.